Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're doing well, staying safe, and keeping healthy. All right, so today's topic will be about your neighborhood. Okay, your neighborhood. Neighborhood is obviously the places that are around where you live. Okay, it could be your neighbors, it could be your complex, it could be whatever's just around your house. Okay, so this was another topic which was recommended by one of your teachers that I should do. So let's do it. Okay, so first thing I guess we should know about neighborhoods are different places. Okay, so obviously, if you ask what is a barbershop, well, a barbershop is a place where you get a haircut. Okay. What's a laundromat? A laundromat is a place where you wash and dry clothes. Okay, what's a library? A library is a place where you borrow books. What's a stationery store? A stationery store is a place where you buy cards and paper, and other stuff. Okay, like pens and glues, newspaper, whatever. What is a travel agency? Okay. Well, a travel agency is a place where you make reservations for a trip. What is a grocery store? Okay, a grocery store is a place where you buy food. And last but not least is what is a theater? And a theater is obviously a place where you see a movie or a play. Okay. I'm sure there are other places around your neighborhood which you might have there, like swimming pools, gyms, cafes. What else? Parks, malls. Yeah, lots of different things around your neighborhood. So yeah, good to know what they are first. Okay, now once you know what they are, it's a good idea to learn some definite and indefinite articles. Okay, what is an article? Well, an article can be something from a magazine or a newspaper, which is a short, brief statement about what's happened or what's happening. Okay, that can be an article, sure. But what in this particular instance, an article is basically a thing. Okay, an object. So if something is definite, if you have a definite article, which is something that then we can use the article the. All right, so we use the for definite articles. Okay, so for example, there are 3 times where we can use an article, the article the. One is when we mention something again. For example, till you come to the roundabout, go straight on at the roundabout. Okay, so there are 2 examples there. Blah 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 till you come to the roundabout, or go straight on at the roundabout. Well, because you already know what that which roundabout you're talking about there, which is definite. Number 2 is with superlatives and ordinal numbers. Okay, so when you say something like, how do I get to the nearest post office? Obviously the nearest is the superlative, so you can use the as the article. So how do I get to the nearest post office? Please would be a nice way to ask a question. And you can also say, and take the first turn on the left. Okay, so if you're giving directions, you can say take the first turn on the left. That is another definite article. And last one is when there is only one possibility. Okay, so for example, it's on the corner next to the police station. Okay, so most towns or districts have only one police station. So obviously, when you're talking about one possibility, then you can just say the as the definite article. All right. So for example, again, it's on the corner next to the police station. Okay. And if you're talking about something that you're not so definite about, which is an indefinite article, which means it could be any article or any item or any object, then you can use are, okay? So are or an are indefinite articles, and we can use them in two main ways. The first one is we use them after there's or there is, okay? For example, there's a supermarket on the right, or you can use it after saying is there as a question, okay? So for example, is there a bank near here, or is there a masjid near here, or is there 7-Eleven convenience store near here? Because you're not sure which one or where, you can say a, okay? Meaning it's still one thing, but you're not sure exactly what or where it is. And obviously we use an as a indefinite article when the object begins with a consonant, okay? So, a vowel, sorry. So if it's a consonant, we use a, and if it's a vowel, we use an, okay? For example, is there an ice cream shop around here? Or is there an Indomart around here, okay? If the word following the article starts with a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, then we use an, obviously. Most of you probably already know that, but if you don't, then there you go. Okay, so point one that you need to understand when talking about articles and neighborhoods. All right, so for example, if you ask a question, is there a supermarket around here? You can say, yes, there is a supermarket around here. And you can just start giving directions, okay? There's one on the main road, for example, okay? Which is 5 minutes away by car or by bike. All right, the next point we should discuss as well is prepositions, all right? So don't forget, you can say, when you're explaining where something is, using there is, there are, there's one, is there any, or there's some, with a preposition, okay, describing where it is, okay. Now the main prepositions that you should probably have already learned but might have forgotten are on, which means, on particular street, for example. Next to obviously means beside. Near or close to means obviously it's close to something. Across from or opposite from, yeah, is another way to describe where something is. In front of or behind, okay, or at the back of means behind, is the opposite of in front. Between, okay, so in between somewhere, yeah, you can say between the mall and the factory outlet, there's a bank. And another common preposition is on the corner, okay, on the corner of. So, for example, is there a laundromat near here? You can say, yes, there is. There's one across from the shopping center. Or you can say negative, which is, no, there isn't. But there's one next to the library, okay? So obviously, if talking about a specific place or one place, you can say, is there, okay? And if it's possible that there might be more than one, we say, are there, okay? So are there any grocery stores around here, for example? For a positive, you can say, yes, there are. There are some nice stores on Pine Street. Or for negative, you can say, no, there aren't. But there are some on 3rd Avenue. Or no, there aren't any around here. Okay, so there aren't any around here, which means obviously there's none around here. Okay, you're gonna have to travel a bit to go find a grocery store. Okay, so yeah, it's always good to use the prepositions in the right place. Okay. And it's probably better that you do some practice with that. I think there's something in your book to do with prepositions, so please open that page and do some practice. Okay, let's keep that in mind while we start talking about neighborhoods in particular. For example, I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood when I was in Australia. It was a place called Glebe in Sydney, and it was very close to the city, but there's also lots of troublemakers and very awkward people around there, as you would expect living near the city. So I didn't really have the best neighbors, to be honest. I think I had the worst neighbors. I had neighbors from hell, and I lived there for 13 years. So yeah, my neighborhood wasn't the best, you could actually say it's probably the worst, and I mean that in every sense. It was like the Bronx of Sydney. So I didn't really enjoy growing up there, but it made me a stronger person, I guess, and it made me more aware of what kind of different people are out there. So yeah. And also it made me also appreciate now where I live, and in terms of basically pretty much every other house that I've moved to ever since that old house in Glebe. The house itself was actually pretty nice. It was a three-story, 4-bedroom house. But yeah, like I said, I had really bad neighbors. I had lots of complaints about them. On the right-hand side, I had Australian neighbors. They were always getting drunk and taking drugs and screaming and shouting and fighting and you name it, okay? And they were also not afraid of police, okay? So they would be, we'd call the police or someone would call the police. They'd come and, you know what? They'd be on top of the roof throwing things at the police. That's how much respect they had for the police. And actually, after a while, the police were pretty scared of them, to be honest. Yeah, and on the other side of my house was a Turkish family, and they had a couple of children, but probably as crazy, if not more crazy. So yeah, some common complaints that you might have with neighbors, for example, is noise, okay? So if you have a noise complaint, you can say, my neighbor's dog barks all night, or my neighbors always have loud music playing till really late at night. So that's one thing you could complain about, that you might complain about with your neighbors, noise. Next is privacy, okay? Privacy obviously means what it is. Whether or not you have, are able to have some privacy or to be private in your own home is very important. And the last thing you want is people looking through their windows, looking at you, seeing what you're doing, what you're up to, who's coming over, who's coming and who's leaving. And an Indonesian word for that is, what is it? Kepo, yes, kepo. Indonesians, yes, I noticed there are lots of people who are kepo here. I'm not sure why. Not so much in Australia, which is a good thing. But yeah, so if you have some privacy issues, you could say, my neighbor visits every day. It's too much, okay? So maybe your neighbor comes over every day. Or maybe they have kids that keep playing in front of your house or in your yard. You could say, the kids next door always plays in my yard, which can be annoying as well. All right, cleanliness might be a problem, okay? So you can say, my neighbor has garbage in front of his yard and it always smells. Or you could say, my neighbor never cuts the grass. Or, you could say, my neighbor's house is very dirty and smelly. Whatever you want to, complain about with your neighbors. Yeah. And another complaint you might have is some things to do with animals, okay? So you might have some animal problems. You could say, like, my neighbor's cats go everywhere. My neighbor has 6 dogs. It's a zoo, okay? Yeah, so there are just some ways that you could express your complaints to do with your neighbors. All right, so I won't take too long, guys. I'm going to ask some questions, and I want to see if you can answer them, okay? I'll answer them as well, but after this, I want you to try and answer these questions. Don't forget you can use quantifiers with how much and how many. If you know if they're countable or uncountable nouns, okay? So let's try this out. All right, question 1. Are there any apartment buildings, okay, near my house? Okay, so these are questions obviously about my neighborhood and your neighborhood. So let's practice answering these questions. Are there any apartment buildings near my house? Well, actually there's not. There's only one, and it's called Chibubur Village. And it's very famous because it's the only one in my neighborhood. It's quite tall, but also quite small. You know, I think it's like 30 meters apartment for one apartment, and that's tiny. I don't know how anybody can live in one of those, but anyway, there is one. Question 2, how much traffic is there? Well, if you look outside my complex, there's quite a bit of traffic, but to be honest, not as much or not as bad as other places in Jakarta. So that's one reason why I actually wanted to move around Cibubur, because yeah, there's not as much traffic around here, okay? I was going to buy a place in Kalibata, in the city in Jakarta, but yeah, I noticed there was just too much traffic and too much, yeah, pollution and noise and everything. I wanted to find a house where I could get my own peace of mind, you know, have good neighbors, and just, you know, enjoy a bit of the space and fresh air. That's why I'm here in Cibubur. Question 3, how many libraries are there? Well, libraries as such, there's not many. I think the only libraries you'll find around here are in schools or in colleges, campuses. So none that I know of, to be honest. But I'm sure they are available in different schools. Okay, now question 4. Is there much noise? Is there much noise? Alhamdulillah, no. Thank God, there is not much noise around here. Just the way I like it too. Yeah, nice and quiet. Question 5, are there many payphones? Obviously we don't use payphones anymore, so no is the answer. There are no payphones. Question 6, is there much pollution? Well, I guess since the lockdown there hasn't been much pollution, which is good. But before the lockdown, this coronavirus, there was too much pollution there. There's way too much pollution. There's a lot of pollution pretty much everywhere you go in Jakarta. There's no way of escaping it, and I really think that's a huge problem, not just for Indonesia, but for all the main, you know, major countries out there, India, China, America, and many other countries with pollution problems. So, you know, I hope things will change when we get back to normal, inshallah, soon, and we, yeah, emit less pollution. Question 7, how many swimming pools are there? Well, there's a few, not many. There's one in Raffles, which is a complex next to mine, quite an elite complex as well. They have a gym, swimming pool there called Stamford. I like going there because they have 2 water slides. They also have a big swimming pool, a swimming pool for children, and they also have a really hot spa bath right next to the pool too. So really nice place to go. Actually, my sister has a swimming pool in the same complex where I live. She lives just down the road, and she has a swimming pool, so that's pretty handy. And there's another swimming pool in Wiladatika, Taman Bunga, which is opposite Cibubur Junction, which is the closest mall here and very famous as well, next to the toll. So yeah, opposite the shopping center there is a flower park, and they also have a pretty big swimming pool there too. So there's about 3 swimming pools around here. And last question, is there much parking? Yes, alhamdulillah. You know, if I was living in Jakarta, I'd have to say no. But living in Cibubur, where I am in Komplek Habibi, IPTN, there's plenty of space, plenty of parking as well. So alhamdulillah, that's not a problem. All right, in my next video, I'm probably going to be talking about houses and buildings, okay, which is a good way to continue from this particular topic, and might show you around my my complex a bit more, and we can talk about that in a bit more detail. But for now, guys, I want you to think about those questions. And oh yeah, by the way, with the quantifiers, you can answer some of these questions using count nouns and non-count nouns. So for example, if they are countable, you can say, for example, are there many restaurants? You can say, yes, there are a lot, okay? Yes, there are a few, or no, there aren't many, or no, there aren't any, or no, there are none, okay? Okay, if it's a countable question, you can use those quantifiers to talk about whether or not they are available. If it's non-countable, for example, is there much crime around here? Here's some ways you can answer that question. First one is yes, there is a lot. Yes, there is a little. No, there isn't much. No, there isn't any. And no, there's none. Okay, so how much crime is there? Well, there's a lot of street crime, but where I live, there's not much. Alhamdulillah. All right, so answer those 8 questions again. Those questions are there many apartment buildings near where you live? How much traffic is there? How many libraries are there near your house? Is there much noise? Are there many payphones? Is there much pollution? How many swimming pools are there near where you live? And last one is there much parking? Okay, think of 2 other questions you would like to ask your friend, and give your friend a call or a video call or whatever, and ask them those questions, and have a talk about your neighborhoods. Okay, and try to answer those questions properly as well. All right, guys. Well, that's all for today. Until next time, take care, be good, and stay safe. All right, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.